There we are. We are now live. It is, what day is it? It's Wednesday, and Wednesday means that we are doing Necropolis for Frog God Games, and we have a special guest. We have the man himself, Ben Barsh from Pacesetter Games. You are special, man.
That's the first time someone's ever said that. That's so
great. Ben, honestly, man, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ben from Pacesetter Games, like she said. Alleged special guest. We'll see how that turns out by the end.
The legend. You just added that one yourself. I see how this is going. The legend is here.
I said alleged, not legend. Alleged. Yes,
well, okay, man, thanks for the cheer, man. Look, I'm already having fun. We were just seconds into this thing. So, as far as I'm concerned, Ben, you are now the legend special guest, and you can tell everyone that.
We'll see. We'll see how everyone feels about me in about 30 minutes. If I'm special guest or legend special guest,
or maybe you're even special guest.
Yes, there you go.
All right, look. For the benefit, and by the way, everyone that's just jumped into chat, thank you so much. Awesome to have you here. Love you all. You're so exuberant. It's absolutely fantastic. You're really humbling me. For the benefit of everyone, Ben, tell us a little bit about Pacesetter Games, because you guys have been around for a short while. You've got a few things out there.
Yeah, so Pacesetter Games was actually made by my dad a while ago, probably about 10 years ago. It started, and since then, he's just been doing it, as a hobby, kind of making a module or two a year, maybe something like that, mostly in our history for first edition or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Personally, I started helping out with the company when I was in middle school, but I was really only packaging stuff in my basement for my dad, nothing too intense. But then once I got to be a senior in high school, I started to dive into this world of Dungeons and Dragons a bit more. I'd been to a couple conventions by then. I had, run a campaign for my friends, and I felt confident to start my journey sort of as a part of the community. So I've been helping out my dad with the publishing side for a while now. And we make basically modules and campaigns for basic expert D&D, 5th edition D&D, still sprinkling first edition there, Swords and Wizardry. I know a lot of people love Swords and Wizardry, fantastic OSR game. So yeah, we definitely have dabbled in a bit, but my history is a bit shorter. Some people might know me from the Frog God Games YouTube channel. I did that for a while, and I just love being a part of the D&D community. I even have a mug for it. It takes over my life. I have some miniatures back there, so yeah, that's kind of what we're all about. But I like to do a lot of different things.
Yeah,
Who is Frog God Games? Oh, I don't know those guys.
The first time I think I met you, we were at, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Gamehole Con 2018 potentially, and I think you were running around the place with a camera, right?
That's usually what people say about me. They're like, yeah, we met when you had a camera in your hand. That's usually how it goes. Yeah. 2018, I think that might have been for Frog God.
Okay.
Maybe that was there a Gamehole 2019, or was that?
There was a 2019. There was so it would be 2019. It would be 2019.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. So that's when I was there. That was actually my first convention, except for I go to Gen Con with my friends just for fun. But that was the first convention I actually had gone to where I was with Frog God and not Pacesetter. Pacesetter, we didn't go that year, just from conflicts. My dad doesn't do Pacesetter full time, so he has got the other job that he was at that weekend. So yeah, that was, I believe, and I got to watch your map seminar for a bit too. I remember.
I remember you being in there. Yeah.
I was I felt bad because I didn't I didn't have a ticket because I was media, I guess you could call it, because I was bouncing around doing so many different Frog God recordings, going to different games and stuff. And your seminar, I was sitting there recording, and I was oh, I don't want to leave. I want to watch this whole thing. But I had to go record. I kind of can't remember who was running a game at that point, but Yeah, that weekend was really fun. I remember that one dearly.
That was a great convention, and I remember that. I think that was my first ever seminar I did, to be honest with you. And I remember there was just like there was a hell of a lot of people in the room, like, and a lot standing up too. That was awesome. It felt really, really good. And I do remember you actually being in the back.
It was a packed house.
It was a packed house. Yeah. But
it's not a shocker. Your stuff is like way too awesome.
Oh, cheers, man! You are a legend. See, look, it's easy as that. But I think. Am I wrong? But I think that was maybe the only time we've spoken. It's like we're mixing the same circles, but we never are really around each other for a long time. This is our longest chat ever.
It is, yeah. It's going great already. I'm loving it. But I usually like my RPG journey was weird because I started really like not really young. They're definitely like Bill Webb's kids started in the RPG industry really young. But even when I was in like high school, I was like terrified to talk to adults that were at conventions because I didn't think I was like gonna fit in correctly or anything like that. But then when I got into college, I got more confident. But the problem is my friends started coming with me. Not a problem, but I also like aren't networking as much or going out and talking to a bunch of other people. Like we run the booth during the day and then we go play our games at night. So yeah. Someone asked what products I've worked on. So my personal biggest product is called Into the Unknown. It's a solo adventure releasing in May for 5e, Swords and Wizardry, and BX. That's my biggest one. It was a really successful Kickstarter run. Other Pacesetter products were Rise of the Nefarious was my first one. I actually wrote that as a senior in high school. And I actually found the funny story about that one. I found a review for that. And it was a great review, and it was like I don't see a lot of reviews for my books all the time, but it was really cool to see that one. That was a fun little thing to find over the internet. But yeah, we've done a couple Kickstarters in our recent history. We're definitely I would say a newer company when it comes to publishing in the current atmosphere. A lot of our stuff was like 32-page modules for old school D&D, and now we're putting out like the big campaign books for 5th edition, and obviously we'll always sprinkle in old school game system alongside that. So
you if you don't want to answer this, don't answer it. Okay.
Nerve-wracking.
But seriously, I've seen some Facebook comments that you've made to this effect, so I know that it affects you. This is why you may not want to actually discuss it. But do you find that there's, I'm going to call it ageism in the business? You said that you started early at this. You wrote your first module while you were still at school, for heaven's sake. High school, granted. I mean, you're doing things at a younger age when you're at school that I think a lot of people would just love to be able to do. But do you find that there's any resistance from the old guard?
I don't think so. I'm going to say no. For the old school community has been nothing but like always amazing to me. I remember it was at GaryCon where I actually had like a playtest version of my first book, and I think this is when I was a senior in high school, and I was like going out giving it to people that I knew, and I was like, "Can you please give me feedback on this when you come back?" And everyone was like so pumped for me that I was kind of taking a really early first step. I definitely have had experiences of people not really like talking down to me, but almost having that condescending tone of people think I don't know what I'm doing or don't know what I'm talking about. That might be true, but at least I've had some success so far in what I've done, and I would rather people judge me by my merit and not my age. Right. Like I'm 22 right now, so at least now I'm like a bit more of an adult than I used to be. I used to really struggle with that. I used to like think I wasn't as worthy to put out a book as other people because I was so young. But we have such a great team at Pacesetter now that I have like no second guessing whatsoever in anything I do. So
that's really cool. And Alex Fixon, by the way, is our main moderator. She's freaking awesome, and she's a walking encyclopedia. Like, she knows everything about everything, and she is the one shining a light on you. And I was like, talk, Ben. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what she does. Hey, Mark Ink One. Some of us are just jealous of the hair. I'm not going to bring up the hair because he does have the best hair in the industry, and I think we all know it, and it's not a joking manner.
Maybe. I think I don't know. I think there's definitely some competitors. Like when we walk around conventions and there's always like man bun guy or like guys that have like that flowy like Jon Snow from Game of Thrones kind of hair, and I'm like, dang.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of
that's
that.
what I want.
yeah, there is. Granted, there is like, wow, yeah, absolutely. So, what was your first system, Ben?
That I actually played.
Yeah. How did you start off?
First edition. It was first edition. With the God's Holy Grail, the Gygax itself. But yeah, I started out on first edition, and originally, actually, the main source of D&D I had for a bit was solo adventures, and that's why like the latest book that I did was such a it was so close. It's so close to my heart because it is a solo adventure, and that's basically what I started on. Because I mainly started gaming in a high school, and after running a bunch of solo adventures for myself and my dad running me some games, I quickly got my best friends addicted. I've had the same group of friends since I was like 5 years old, and it's almost like I don't fully relate our lives to Stranger Things, the TV show, but it's really similar, as in like we're from small town America in the Midwest. We don't have a Demogorgon like chasing us all the time, but that's what we do. Like we go around. When we were younger, we would go around town and play games. So I got my friends hooked on first edition as well. That was their first game system, and to this day we still play. Actually, I don't want to pan my camera, or why not? I'll see if I can get it over there. I still have our game board set up from when we were able to play, and right now I'm doing some Ravenloft for them. So still kicking it old school, even though we're running 5th edition right now. Sounds like a lot of people were on first edition first as well, which is usually the sentiment, and that's how I usually bond with people in the D&D industry.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a lot of fans right now just because of the first edition, and that's actually kind of cool because while like first edition and everything is still pretty popular nowadays, I think to have someone start on that, it's got to be. Is that because of your dad? Did your dad kind of start with this one?
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, I mean that's his two favorite editions are, I would say, not totally trying to speak for him, but would be first edition and BX. And I started on first edition, and then went to North Texas RPG Con not too long after, and played in my first convention game with Mike Battolato. And it was definitely because my dad, like, I got lucky, you know. I grew up in a household where we played Fantasy Forest, if anyone knows what that is, old TSR board game. We played Dungeon all the time. We, as in like me and my sisters. My dad would run us a game of Fantasy Forest and Dungeon. That's what we grew up on as like our board games. We didn't play Monopoly. We didn't play, I don't even know the other board games because we played TSR board games growing up. So that I feel like is a super unique thing for people my age, especially. I think a lot of people my age are like, their first experience with D&D is like Critical Role or 5th edition Adventures League and stuff like that. So not saying anything that there's nothing wrong with that, but I just have such a unique outlook on D&D because I was raised in the old school.
We were the Monopoly family, okay? Yeah. When I first bought and played Dungeons and Dragons, I remember sitting there at the kitchen table. For starters, there's a rule book, and I'm like, what the hell am I dealing with here? Because it's unlike anything else that I've ever experienced. And my dad was behind me, and I remember asking him, Dad, what's charisma? And he couldn't tell me. He couldn't tell me, so I had no context for what charisma was. So, yeah, it was a little bit harder for me to actually get to grips with it. So it's kind of cool that you had such a great family in that way.
Yeah, no, I got really, really lucky with both my parents. But my dad is the big influence for gaming. My mom is my big influence for Disney. My parents both love Disney, and for people who don't know, I did a year-long internship with Disney, so that's a huge part of my life as well. I'm actually moving back to Orlando in like 2 weeks. Doing some Dungeons and Dragons in Disney. It's awesome playing D&D in the parks. It's like you're playing D&D in a fantasy setting. It's so awesome.
That
yeah.
is cool. So actually, are you allowed to tell us what you do for Disney? Because I know Disney is huge for you.
So I'm actually not with them right now. I'm finishing college in Orlando because they let everyone. They basically cut all the interns and incoming interns when COVID hit. So my latest role was going to be a character performer. So I was going to be walking around with a bunch of Star Wars characters in their Star Wars land, Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, get out!
I was going to be with a big old Wookiee, the best co-pilot in the galaxy. But unfortunately, I was unable to actually go on stage and stuff. So COVID sucks in more ways than one. So I always say like that's my worst. Like I haven't had COVID or anything yet, and that's like the worst thing COVID's done to me personally. So I'd say it's pretty good overall, but still kind of sucks because I was really looking forward to it.
No, it is one of those life-changing moments, right? And you're seeing it as a life-changing moment. It's like, you hit this little crossroads, and it's like life goes, yeah, but there's COVID, so you're going left. And you're like, yeah, but I want to go there. And so, yeah, that's going to suck. Will you ever have a chance to get back into that, do you think?
I hope so. That's what kind of the plan is with finishing school in Orlando and, staying. I'll probably stay after for a bit because I really would like to go back to work for Disney for a bit. I really, really love doing Pacesetter, and if I can do that full time, I would love to. Probably when I graduate college, I'll try to be a performer again, just because I really, really want to do it, and I could handle both. But yeah, I would go back in a heartbeat. I think being a part of that company is really cool because you get such a different outlook on life, and there's also something about going to a workplace and like having that kind of thing, because in like the D&D industry, we work like by our own pretty much, even though if like we're working on a team. Like Keelan does our maps. He lives in Alaska. The guy who's doing a lot of our art right now, Dimitri, lives in Poland. Like everyone's so spread out over the place. So it's cool to sometimes go into a workplace.
That's cool. My father-in-law had 20 years at Disney, I think, or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And he's in love with the place. So yeah, I'm sure any time that you get with them, you'll come away with some incredible memories.
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun when I was there for sure. I got to meet some awesome people through Dungeons and Dragons and Disney as well. There's an awesome guy named Thomas Valley who works for Disney, who also goes to all these conventions and stuff. So it was cool like getting to know him better. So yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy it, and post COVID, I hope that it's a possibility, but we'll see. I'm never I like to plan, but I also don't like to set this is what I'm going to do with my life. This is how I'm going to do it, because it has not worked out for me like that even a little bit. I thought I was going to be playing college baseball and possibly like minor or major league baseball. And here I am making books for Dungeons and Dragons. So obviously very different things. And I'm totally happy with it. So I just kind of go with whatever's going.
So, first edition is what you started with.
Mm-hmm.
What else have you played, and what's your current favorite? And it doesn't have to be a rule set. It could either be a genre. What really, if you go to a convention and the world is your oyster and someone else is running, what do you like to play in?
So that's actually a really interesting question, because if I go to a convention, I'm for sure playing old school. I'm for sure going to play 1E, BX, Swords and Wizardry, or really anything prior to 1E. Now, I also love being a good Call of Cthulhu game at a convention, because those are just awesome. But I've really tried everything before first edition. And then I've played a little bit of second edition. I have not even played a single game session for 3.0, 3.5. I've played Pathfinder. Fourth edition, I've not played a single game. And then we play 5th edition currently right now. So I've tried a good amount. I would love to try 3.0 or 4.0 one day. It's just a little harder to find people to run those games because not as many people play them. But if I'm at a convention, honestly, I'm probably playing old school because we play 5th edition for our home game. So it's nice to play the old school again at cons.
So when I go to conventions, I love actually trying to find a game I've never played in before.
Yeah.
Personally, you know. So are there any games, apart from like the 4th edition, etc., that you were talking about, but are there any games like Top Secret or anything like that, or Traveller, that make you go, I should try that one day?
Top Secret's awesome, first of all. Thank you for reminding me for that. I totally forgot about Top Secret. And then, honestly, I have never played Boot Hill, and I want to play Boot Hill so badly. I think every year at North Texas, Steve Winter, I believe, runs a Boot Hill game on Wednesdays, like the pre-con Wednesday night kind of thing. And I've never been able to get into it. It fills up immediately, and I haven't been able to hop into it yet. And damn, I want to play Boot Hill really badly.
I've played Boot Hill once. I don't know if they've got later versions of it now. Maybe once or twice, because my group back in England, we would have so many games and we'd just try them all. And yeah. I remember, I think it was Machetes did like a D100 damage or something like that. At least back in the day in the early version. And it was just so ridiculous, because your stats are a D100. So it's like, how many hit points you've got? 27? Well, I'm doing a D100 damage to you. Oh no. And it was just wonderful just running around that game with a machete just hacking things up. That was my takeaway from it.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Like I said, I haven't played it quite yet, but my group is very much we've been playing the same game for a really long time, and I think we're all kind of at the point where maybe like we want to try experimenting more because, even though I had a lot of, I grew up on different board games and obviously D&D, my friends didn't. We all grew up on video games. Like the big game we played since we were 8 years old was World of Warcraft. So, we try a lot of different video games sometimes, but we haven't dabbled as much as we should in tabletop games. But
a few people were mentioning Eclipse Phase. Have you heard of that one? I haven't.
I haven't. No. Eclipse Phase.
Yeah, Lord Dalius just said Eclipse Phase is one I'd like to try, and then Alex Vixen was like, I run Eclipse Phase, it's a great system. I've literally never heard of it.
Sci-fi horror role-playing game.
Sci-fi horror, that sounds cool.
From Catalyst Games.
Okay.
Can't believe I've never heard of it.
No, mate, even Aloe is going, yeah, it's pretty cool. I have literally never heard of it.
Have I played the D20 version of Warcraft? I have not, because the times we've played WoW, we play it with 5th edition rules. So like we found some cool PDFs online of like, if you want to play World of Warcraft with 5e rules, this is how you create your characters and stuff. So my friends actually did that one weekend when, I can't remember where, I wasn't home or I wasn't available. So they tried it, but I haven't played the D20 version yet, no.
Sci-fi transhumanist game D100 based. Okay. I love D100 games myself. Post-apocalyptic game of transhuman horror. Think Cyberpunk meets Cthulhu in space. I wonder why I've never played this game before. That's like pushing all my buttons.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like something you would enjoy.
And Marky, Cthulhu Invictus. I actually run Cthulhu Invictus at all of the conventions I go to, whether it be physically or virtually. I love Cthulhu Invictus. Did a map for actually Golden Goblin last year. Their Britannia map is their Britannia supplement is going to have my map in it. I love that game.
Very nice.
Who is your favorite Disney villain and why? Oh, good question.
So I honestly think it's Hades. Mainly because I was obsessed with Hercules because I've always loved Greek mythology. And there's actually a really cool game that you can play in the parks. It's a card game inside of Magic Kingdom Park in Orlando. It's a card game that you hold the card up to a sensor basically, and there's like TVs, or they're called portals, all around the parks, and you fight against the different villains with these magical cards, which are basically just playing cards. But the whole theme of the story is Hades is the one who's causing all these problems. So I always envision Hades being like kind of like the God King villain, I guess, that pokes and prods everyone else. He's also just awesome. Like I really like Greek mythology. So, have you seen the Once Upon a Time TV show? I have not. People have been telling me to watch it for a really long time, and then I was going to, and then Disney Plus came out, and then Mandalorian came out, and then I got distracted. So, I'll put it back on the agenda to watch. Hades got robbed. Hades gets robbed in like everything. He's definitely never like portrayed as he is in actual Greek mythology. But I think that's for a good reason, because sometimes Greek gods are like, yeah, we're gonna alter you a little bit because your character's like really bad. We're just gonna go for bad. First edition of Clip Phase PDFs are legally free at the above website. Oh, interesting.
Okay. And Treebor is one of our regulars, and he never posts things that aren't legal. Not that we would ever do that here. So yeah, you'll be able to trust that link if he says they're legally available right there. All right, so we've talked about how you got into the industry, the games you like to play, the games you would want to play but haven't yet. What do you think about conventions in general? Like, which are your favorite conventions, Ben? Which are the ones you like going to?
So much. I know we were chatting about this a little bit before we went live, and man, conventions are the bomb. Like, they're a big reason, or a big lifeblood of the industry, you know. And I would definitely say that the rotation of North Texas RPG Con, Gamehole Con, and GaryCon are just like the foundational three of my soul. I would say. I would personally say that Gen Con is still in there for me, of like a must do every year, mainly because that was like my first convention when I was a kid, so obviously I'm attached to it. And then my friends and I still enjoy like the craziness that is Gen Con. I know a lot of people are like over it, you know, or like don't care for big crowds anymore, but we're still a bit, you know, we still like going and seeing whatever new games are coming out that year and having fun with that. But I mean, they all have their different like vibes. Like North Texas, you can sit down and talk to like Tim Kask for like an hour and just like hear about TSR stories. Gamehole Con, I've been able to meet like Matt Mercer and Joe Manganiello and talk to them, and not like get to know them, but like, you know, have good conversations with them and maybe become gaming acquaintances one day. And then you have GaryCon, which is like the perfect in the middle. So I love all of them is the dumb answer, but I really like those four. Like those are in my circuit for sure. Once, you know, COVID.
Yeah, Tim Kask has great stories and is always happy to sit and talk about him. He's a really, really, really cool dude. Princess, I saw your question, by the way. We will definitely answer that one. I think one of the things, I've done Gen Con. I am one of those people that's over it now. I did Gen Con twice, and I think it's an experience that you have to do at least once. Just experience it, because it's unreal. It's surreal. But I think I'm good now on that one. And then I love GaryCon, because it's a fairly large convention but feels small and homely, and has a great bar. And then I like North Texas, because it feels like wherever you play, you just feel like it's a small little tight knit group that you're with. It's just like you're playing with friends constantly. It feels really intimate, and I really like that. And then Gamehole Con is almost like a miniature Gen Con. I mean, it's not that big by far, but it has almost that feel to it, you know? It's got a huge energy to it. And they have a great auction.
Yeah, I didn't even hit on that, but as you were talking, I was thinking in my head like, oh, I forgot to hit on all the auctions, because like really the GameholeCon auction has become one of the premier auctions in the community. And I can't speak for like maybe like the long history, but I can talk about my history with the conventions and their auctions. Like the GaryCon auction, there's some stuff that occasionally pops in there. I think it's mainly a charity auction. North Texas obviously does a different kind of auction at night. They also do another auction that occasionally has stuff,
I'm going to pause you there for a moment, Ben, because North Texas, just so everyone knows, it's a midnight auction, and in fact, I think it was under 21, because didn't they make you leave one year? No, maybe not.
I think they tried to, and I was like, I'm not leaving. I was in this thing when I was like 16. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, don't you dare go there. Yeah, but it's pretty adult. The humor is adult. Yeah. The energy in the room is ridiculous, and a lot of the time they're auctioning off some pretty cool stuff. Then other times they're auctioning off junk. But it's so freaking hilarious. It is an experience. It's so good. Ben, please continue.
Do I permission to occasionally drop links in the chat from you?
Please do. Please do. You are the legend guest, remember? You have every right.
The alleged guest. I just threw you the website, Wargaming Recon, but...
and it's worth checking out, folks, by the way. It really is. It's such a good convention. I think they might be trying to go physical this year, but it's obviously going to depend on the rapidity of vaccines and everything. But they'll definitely go virtual at least.
Especially a lot of the special guests have said, like, we really want to go, but we also really need to be vaccinated first. So just kind of keep your eye on it. Keep a pulse on the community. Like Steve Marsh, for example, has said if he's all vaccinated and his doctor gives it the green light, he'll go. So I think a lot of people are kind of taking it that step. But the reason I still actually really enjoy Gen Con personally is for the auction. Like I said, I like grew up in the industry going to Gen Con, and the premier auctioneers at that convention for the longest time were Tim Kask and Frank Mentzer. Now, my favorite thing to do as a kid who didn't get to experience the old days was go sit in that auction and basically experience the old days. Because Frank and Tim would just be auctioning stuff off, and they'd be like, oh, I remember working on this. And then they'd give a little story about whatever Dragon X number magazine Tim was talking about. And it was just so cool to like sit in there and be a sponge for history. And neither of them do the auction anymore. They've both kind of said that, they're a little old, maybe old for it, or, that isn't their style of, they want to take a step back and enjoy the community that they helped create. So I know Tim is still super active, buzzing around all the time, chirping at me. But he's always got a quip. Like he's always got a quip whenever he walks in and rides by now, his ECV and stuff. It's awesome. What cool stuff have I gotten? So actually the coolest thing I got at a Gen Con auction was the first thing I bought. I was like 15 years old. I probably had like $26 for the whole weekend. Had no money whatsoever. And a red box came up. And at the time, I was still super new in the industry. I didn't know anyone's faces, and I hardly even knew names of like, this designer did this writer did this. So Frank Mentzer himself is auctioning off a red box, and I bought it. It was the coolest thing in the world for me. I walked up, he signed it while he was waiting to do the next auction. So that was definitely my favorite auction I'd ever received. But I have my collections upstairs in my room where I'd grab some stuff and show it off. But I've dabbled a little bit in like trying to collect some stuff at auctions. I can't compete with like Alex Kamer. Or like Bill Meinhardt, who bid like thousands of dollars for things. I'm still a student and working as a writer, so it's not like I'm crushing it in the bank account sense, but I have a couple cool things. I have an old TSR catalog from like 1981, I think, which is like apparently really rare. There's like not a lot of them, but there's also not a lot of interest for them. I have like the original Giant series, the UK versions, the monochrome versions.
Nice.
I have some like random cool things, but I don't have like a sweet collection. I have every 5th edition thing that's been put out, but I know people aren't super into like 5e.
You've been to Alex Kamer's game hall, right? Like,
I haven't.
You haven't?
I have not. Isn't that insane? I've known
Oh,
Alex for like 4 or 5 years at this point, or something.
we
And I
gotta we
haven't
gotta fix
caught up.
that. Like towards the end of this year, I'm sure they're gonna. I hope that they're gonna have a physical in person one. We have to get you there.
Every,
So
every year, I'm like, I don't even think about it because most of the day I'm at the Pacesetter booth, and
right.
then I always have games at night, so I never like have time to go over with Alex.
All right. So we
I
gotta
really want to.
we gotta get you there. Like okay. So let's do this. The VIP party the night before things kick off. If you're not
Yeah.
helping your dad set up Pacesetter and so on and so forth, let's try and get you over there because it's a cool gaming room. He uses it for proper gaming. And for folks that don't realize, Alex Kammer is a successful man in life, and he collects. I'm going to call it Dungeons and Dragons, but certainly role playing items, but only the choicest ones. Like I'm talking about, the first edition print, very first off the press, chainmail, never opened type of stupid shit. Where you go,
I think a lot of it's TSR era.
yes, very TSR.
Too.
I went there, so I own an original. I think I want to say brown box or something. It predated the red box and the blue box. It was when they had the little chips in there and stuff. And I was like, and I said to Alex, so is this any good? And he was like, oh yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. I've got 3 of them right there. And I was like, what? So what about Dark on blah 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 still in shrink? He's like, yeah, that's not a bad one. I have the entire Dark Sun series, every book still in shrink on the shelf right here. I'm like, holy balls! It's such a good collection to see. You gotta go see it, man. We gotta get you in there.
Yeah, I've been really wanting to go, but it's just always the kind of thing where I don't want to like bug him because I know he's super busy too. So, I just kind of like when I'm invited, I'll go.
No, he loves it, man.
Kind of like my vibe.
No,
so,
the night before, he loves showing off his collection. Are you kidding me?
yeah,
He
I definitely
loves
gotta ask
showing
him.
it off. And then the other one is Bill Meinhardt, and I've not seen his collection. Bill Meinhardt. So year 1 of me going to Gamehole Con as a convention, I would go to this auction. I'm blown away by it. And then all of these rich people buying rare shit. But I was like Bill Meinhardt sitting down the bottom. He's like the dude from Antique Roadshow, but for RPG shit.
Yeah,
And
literally, that's so true.
and he's
We need
like,
to get him a show.
yeah, he's like, so yes, this is being advertised as Necropolis first edition. However, the barcode on the back is yellow, and that indicates second print run. And this is not original shrink because, and he's talking about all of this stuff, and I'm like, I fucking love this dude. The brain on this guy is incredible, and so yeah, I want to go to his house at some point because apparently he has a library. I say apparently, I've seen it virtually. It's the length of a house. It's just and it has everything in it.
Yeah, he's another one of the. Bill Meinhardt was like one of the first people I met when I was just going to conventions when I was like in high school, and I remember him and Mark Greenberg at the Gen Con auction just bidding each other up like back and forth all night, and it was just so cool to like see that and be a part of that. But Princess Strega, I did. If I said your name correctly, I'm sorry if I did not. I do have all of the 5th edition books as well as the limited edition covers. I've been really lucky with the local game store that I've been able to get everything. So, yeah, I have all of those. The Eberron one is super cool too. But yeah, I really want to go see those collections because, I just kind of collect. If I see something pop up on RPG auctions, or if I see, oh, Mark, what's up? If I
Wait a
see
minute, is
something on
Bill
RPG
in here?
Is Bill in here too? Oh, we're gonna have a bid war.
So wait, is
Can I
Mark?
bid something off? Mark, I have something for you to buy for my college.
Is Mark King Mark Green? Holy balls! This is Mark Green.
That's so awesome.
That
is it really?
That's really cool. Okay,
Mark,
okay.
I
So
have this
Bill's
set of
not, but
AirPods.
Mark is. Okay, Mark. See, this is the thing. Everyone uses different names in their real life name, except for me, apparently, in Twitch. I didn't realize, Mark, dude. You've seen this, but so everyone, just so you know, Mark Igg is the lead. I don't want to say project manager, but he is the project manager. But he's also the lead writer on the reimagined Necropolis. This is the dude right here. We're going to have Markig on the channel with us. Once I entice him across. Markig, we have been busy. We have plenty here for the Kickstarter coming up. Everything here matches the descriptions as I understand them. Where I didn't like the description, I changed it. No, seriously. If there was no description, I added something. But yeah, welcome to the dungeon that you are currently writing, my friend. It is really, 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 really good to see you. And actually, I'm kind of glad that you're here. Because, Mark, this room is empty. This gloriously shaped room is a room of illusions in the corridors only. No spoilers, folks. I didn't say that. But otherwise, the entire center of the room is empty. I want to put a sarcophagus in the center of the room, Mark, if I may. Let me know if I can or not. Your choice.
I say put it in. Go above his head.
I think he's the boss of me on this particular project.
I'm actually so glad Mark's here, and of all like the Gen Con stories I had, I was making sure I mentioned Mark because Mark has just been such a good guy for me to look up to in the industry. So welcome, Mark. Good to see you, man.
Really good to see you, Mark. Really good to see you. So actually, this is... I was telling you a little bit about this, Ben, beforehand. So this is room 16, right? So, description of room 16 is thusly. Again, no spoilers on this one. So after going all the way through this room, okay, there's a door here. You come down these steps. There's no description for this. You come in here, double doors, okay, you open up this room. Now, the room is kind of cool in and of itself. It's called Infinite Exploration. Okay, nothing beyond that. And there is no description box. That's the first thing. And all it says to the GM is from the base of the stairs. Okay, you go up, blah, 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 down the stairs, round the corner, and there's doors. Cool. The chamber reveals a large chamber, 30 feet wide, 50 feet long. The ceiling is 30 feet above. The room is plastered white, hence the colouring, and painted with scenes of Rahotep counting his wealth. So those are on the walls. We don't do anything with that. Blah, blah, blah about the pictures. And that's it. So the room is actually empty, which honestly suits me because I could now say this room is done. Fantastic. But I kind of want to put something in there of interest. Even if it's just a wild goose chase or something for the GM to hook into.
I would put... these alcoves are screaming to me. That's the thing that I can't get out of my head.
Well, I'm not going to say anything about the alcoves. I know Mark Haig is saying you're giving away secrets. Mark Haig, what I do is I will read the description of a room. I never reveal spoilers. I never do the spoilers. So I'm not going to read what's going on in those alcoves. Certainly players should... Well, and will probably be inclined to poke their nose in. I mean, that's how they're intended to be. But, I mean, do we just leave... Maybe we do leave the room blank. Maybe that's the point. You know, players go in there, nothing in the room of interest. They start poking their nose into the corridors.
I also worry that there's that group that pokes their head in, sees nothing, dips, because either something's lurking or it's not totally worth going into. They don't see anything that can lure them in. I'll let Mark decide, but I even did something on that north wall that will draw them in to possibly interact.
Draw them into the room,
like,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe do like a small little table with ornaments on the top or something that pull them.
That's
in.
actually interesting. An altar of some description with some things on top of it.
Yeah, because that will pull them far into the room away from the door. If depends on what's those alcoves. Like I would have to know what's in alcoves to give a perfect take on it, but cowardly parties should not enter the tomb. That's fair. That's also true.
So this Gary himself on this particular dungeon says, if I can find this bit fairly easy. Something, I don't want to paraphrase this, but I might have to for the sake of, just getting the point across. But something along the lines of, this is a very difficult dungeon. It's really intended for advanced players. Mm-hmm. And, less advanced players are probably going to get themselves killed. Paraphrasing. And so I think if you have got to this point, you're probably in that set of, you're a pretty sharp player, and unless there was a reason to go in there, you probably wouldn't. Or you'd send in the scout, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like it. I like it empty. I also, what I've done a lot is put, if those alcoves are the thing of interest, I would put something in there to get them in there. First of all, for if maybe there was an ambush or something, that'd be much easier to pull off if they were already investigating something aside from that. Yeah, it would depend what's going on in the alcoves, Mr. Mark.
And that is for the rogue to find out. That's what they're there for. Get them on the end of a 10-foot pole and poke them into the alcove. Yep. If they scream, stop doing it.
The 10-foot pole has really gone away throughout the history of D&D. I have, the only parties that I've had a 10-foot pole be pulled out is at gaming conventions with people who have played for a really long time. I've never been at a table with a bunch of new school players who even know that the 10-foot pole's in the game, or that's an option. It's crazy.
See, I'm in Alex Dixon's camp, and Mark, we don't have to draw this thing tonight. And honestly, actually, let me rewind. Anything I do draw, Mark, can be redrawn. It's never a problem. I know that you and I are going to sit down and go over this together, compare to descriptions, and if something needs to change, then we'll change it. I am a very compliant cartographer. But on the flip side, if I do put something in here, and we don't like it, we can get rid of it. But also, if you're strongly opposed to us, let's say, putting an altar or a sarcophagus or something on the other side to draw the players in, then we'll just leave it out. I feel like this room, myself, beckons the players in. And if you open up the door and they kind of wander in and there's nothing in here, and I think the description says the corridors are kind of shadowy, which hence I put the shadow on there. But if you don't want it, then that's cool. That's fine. And you're not obliged to answer right now. Yeah, Mark, think it through. It's cool.
I almost like something in the center of the room, maybe an obelisk with a dish on the top of it. And if a player goes and looks over into the dish, maybe it's filled with water and they see a reflection of someone they're attached to. If they have a mother or father that they've left while adventuring, they see that mother or father. Something creepy and sinister to get them that terrifying feeling. Or maybe there's an object of intrigue inside that dish that they've been searching for, and it's an illusion version of it or something. Yeah, sort of a little bit like the Mirror of Erised from Harry Potter. Not totally the same, but something along the lines of that. I always like those sort of things that are illusion based, that get the players what's this? And then all of a sudden stuff pops out of the alcove and goes to hell. Glad the Mirror of Erised. Yeah, that's awesome. That's the first thing that popped into my head, and then I started to riff off of it.
All right, so that one we might have to come back to. So no problem there. This one I've got to draw a bunch of statues for, so I'm just going to say TBD for that one, because that one's going to be a pain in the butt to do. A single gold coin, says Pex. That could be actually interesting. A single gold coin on the floor. A couple of spell coins. A single bag of split coins. Electrum, says Princess.
Ooh. Princess is rich. Is a princess, of course.
Alright, well, if we're gonna move on here,
that has gone away. I still put Electrum in my 5e books. When I write a 5e book, I make sure to represent every single kind of currency just to annoy the DM, to make him know his characters are going to have to go to a bank at some point. It's that trickle effect, or like the ripple effect of what something you put in the game as a designer, that ripples out to a bunch of different aspects of the game. And Electrum will do that. Platinum will do it.
I think you got Allah angry. That's
I know.
angry Allah face.
I'm sorry. I'll stop doing it. I like doing stuff like that. That like I put something in the adventure that I specifically know will not specifically create an adventure out of it entirely, but do everything with intention. That's kind of how I was raised, and that sport is like, that's used in sports. Like every step you take, do it with an intent. Like if you're in football, move towards something very quickly with intention, or you're going to get hurt. Like my sisters growing up, they danced. Move with intention. Like don't take a step lazily. Don't do it half-assed. Do everything, every detail with an intent. And I like doing that in D&D books as well.
That's actually
Like
kind of cool.
every painting, every tapestry, everything has a meaning. Don't just throw something in there to put something in there.
This is not exactly that, Ben. Necropolis, at least the Necropolis map, there's certain parts of it that are a little bit more random, but this is, originally a little bit of a Gygax piece. It's like the Teagle one, really. And Bill Webb sort of obviously went through it all, and there was some purpose to each room, but I'm not sure everything had quite that intention.
There's
Certainly
definitely
here.
like randomness can be an intent. Like if that is the core of the intent, then that's an okay intention, Like to have confusion. If the intention is to have something random in, to be like, why the hell this is here? Or like, what's going on here? And then that creates the mystery around the dungeon. That's intent, in my opinion, still. But I don't know. I always like, maybe it's because I haven't written a lot, so I go into really far detail on everything I do. I know sometimes when writers have been on like their 50th book or whatever, like not everything is super connected to you personally, but yeah, I don't know. I always like to put stuff in that's like, even like a self Easter egg, or like could lead to something bigger down the line.
Well, that's one of the things that I've tried to add little Easter eggs and such in this too. And there are some things that Mark and I definitely have to talk about, but like, this room here was described as just having two statuettes in it. But I'm like, well, let's at least put them on plinths and make them a little bit more interesting. And they look like they have some intention now. And likewise with this one over here, it was basically the same sort of thing. This one was empty, but the GM's meant to decide what's in it. There's meant to be a spindling of some magic items. I was like, all right, well, let's do that. So, I think the purpose of this particular area, so there is a level of players investigating, and this one too, maybe most of this dungeon, players investigating and trying to determine if it's actually important or not. Is it related or not? Are they even on the right track or not? And that's probably the purpose of the whole thing, now thinking about it.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah. Like there's some things are like continuity wise connected, and some things are continuity wise disconnected to cause that whatever intent the writer is trying to push into the table. I don't mind empty dungeon rooms. Are like sometimes I do put them in just because if I'm thinking of the lore of this dungeon, would it make sense to have like a project room, or like maybe the designer of the dungeon wanted to expand one day and left this room empty just in case they ever wanted to dabble in magic, or like whatever, maybe they wanted to, maybe the villain is a really nice guy and wanted to adopt a kid one day and left a room empty for a bedroom. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean, Princess. Like an empty room is in like a lazily kind of like, I don't feel like doing a room here.
Yeah, you open the door, the room is empty. You open the next door, the room is empty. You open the next door, the room is empty. It's like, what the hell is going on? There's got to be something here. All right, so talking of which, I think this is room 18. I think Mark's got this now in his memory here, but this is room 18. The description for this one reads, You are peering from the tunnel down into the 30-foot square chamber with a 40-foot high ceiling. The tunnel's floor is about 10 feet off from the ceiling. Okay. The tunnel being where you could see the fallen rubble right there. The only notable feature is an archway 10 feet high, 8 feet wide to the north wall near the corner. North, by the way, being... I don't know now with Twitch, but that direction. That's north over there. Everything's kind of turned around on this one. So we just got an archway, that's it. And I might do that by just throwing a shadow, an arched shadow on there. So this is a perfect example of a room that is actually empty. At face value.
Yeah, and this might just be like a connector room, you know? Like sometimes when mapping, sometimes you almost don't want to do like too many hallways and stuff, so you like make a hallway a little bit bigger just to make it... I don't know. This might just be like a little connector room. Like you could maybe like put a portrait in there and people would be like, okay, that's enough in this room. Move on.
One of the things I like about these dungeons that Frog God have been doing...
a rug. Yeah, like a rug or something.
It is, you as a GM, you could change it if you want to. You know, there was a lot of that in Teagle. I forget who it was now that was running it and at what bloody convention, but he was actually running Teagle and it wasn't Bill. And some of the rooms he was just like totally ad-libbing it because what he felt should be in there, which I guess is always an option.
Yep, for sure.
A room to potentially rest in, says Jack. Yes, and I think with 5th edition, that's a welcome room, right?
Any room is basically a welcome room in 5th edition. I'm joking. I love 5e, but sometimes DMs are a little bit nice.
Too nice? How do you mean?
I think the rules itself are made for the DM to be a little bit... okay, so let me say for sure, the rules are made in the player side, definitely not the DM side for 5th edition. I think the old school games were more so... you know, of course they're made for the players, but also they kept the GM's power in mind, whereas I feel like 5e sometimes is like there's a bit of an imbalance. But I also think in 5th edition, a really good dungeon master can shine in 5e because there's so many different things to there's so many different tools in your toolbox for 5e, but sometimes you can really underwhelm if you don't if you haven't played a lot of the system. Balancing the encounters is kind of the hardest thing, I will admit, but resting in 5e is also just really overpowered. Maybe not overpowered, because of course it has that relation to the to like the, I don't know, the size of the feat that's before you. Like the monsters are pretty tough sometimes, so I guess you should maybe get some more resting in. Also, depending on if it's a short rest or a long rest, like warlocks can get their spells back during a short rest, so you kind of have to have 2 a day. If not, you have to change the warlock class completely. So there are some weird things about resting in 5e that I don't love, but
there's actually a tomb dressing appendix in Necropolis. Oh, okay, thank you. So like ideas for GMs to add things on the fly, so to speak. That did not work out. Magnificent Peck says 5e's main problem, in his humble opinion, is CR doesn't factor into magic items.
Yeah. And
so, and I think that's fair. I don't even think that's necessarily just limited to 5e.
Yeah, I think the CR system is definitely my beef with 5e, and if you haven't played a lot of 5th edition, it's really hard to balance a 5e game, because at this point I've played 5e for like, I don't know, 3-4 years now, so I'm very comfortable making a difficult encounter, but it's hard for new DMs for sure. Stop trying to play 5e, the book from the DM side. I adjust monsters on the fly when needed. Yes, oh my god, I always adjust the monsters, because everything in 5e is done with averages. So like the monster health that you as you know, Ala, it says it, that the health that it says in the monster manual is its average health. I always just put it to max and run the encounter that way. I usually never use average because it's way too weak. And I bump up AC because, oh my god, monsters AC is way too low in 5e. It's like, oh, here's this monster that's super like villainous and could be the end boss of a campaign arc. It has a 13 AC. A level 1 character could hit it by accident. Like, it's that easy sometimes. Matt Colville method of action-oriented monsters. Yeah, Colville is a big brain. I wish I could step into that guy's mind for like a day. He's really, really smart.
I actually don't know him. I'm not familiar with that name.
So Matt Colville is a game designer who I believe does a lot of game design for video games, I want to say. I don't know his personal work history, but he came up with this series on YouTube that has like probably like millions of views by now of like running the game is what the series is called. So he takes you from conception of creating an adventure for your group all the way to like running a full scale campaign. And he has a bunch of YouTube videos on how to run 5th edition effectively and just run D&D in general, you know, tips of how to do everything. So he has his own game company now called Matt Colville something or other. Matt Colville Productions, maybe, publishing, something like that. But he's a really smart dude, really good game designer. He's a good content creator for it as well. Have I played Pathfinder? I have played Pathfinder like twice. Not that much though, unfortunately. We play a lot of 5e at home, at least with my friends, and we'll dabble in some old school here or there. Yes, he is mainly a designer in video games, but they've also been putting out. He made a production studio to put out books for. I don't know if they're system neutral. They might be. I should probably know more about him than I do.
Talking of which, are there any people in the industry, apart from Mark in the chat, that you look up to? That you like you get great inspiration from? Even people you've never met.
Yeah, there's a ton. I would say Steve Winter is high on that list. Everything that he does, even to this day, I love. He does a lot of books for 5e now too, that I really enjoy. I didn't know if you were asking me or the chat, but I'll give a couple. Interact with the chat.
You're the legend.
The alleged. Steve is awesome. Obviously, Gary. I never got to meet Gary because he unfortunately passed away before I was like old enough to be running around conventions all the time. I like Tim Kask a lot. He's like one of the like my grandfathers. Ben say Alyssa. Obviously, Alyssa. Alyssa's the best maps in the game.
Who said say Alyssa?
But then there's like, you know, of the people that I don't know, I would say I really do look up to Matthew Mercer a lot. I think his outlook on the game is fantastic. I think his positive attitude is what we need more of. I've met him in person too, and he's the same person he is on camera, which is awesome. But people that I know really well, like Bill Webb, for example, who's like my second dad in the community. You know, he's been a big part of me coming up, and I could, the list would go on forever, like Zach Laser, Bill Webb, Mike Battalato, Chris Haskins. Like there's a ton. There's so many people, but I just I think everyone has some knowledge to be taken from, even if they're not specifically a game designer. Like I've learned a lot of things just running convention games for people who have been playing the game for like 30 years, you know? So I just try to be a sponge because I'm definitely younger and I don't have as much of experience as other people. So I make sure to take in anything I can.
Honestly, Ben, I don't even think that's got anything to do with age at this point. And if anything, I think you're showing wisdom beyond your years, because I think people should always be a sponge. I don't think you should ever stop being a sponge. In my personal sort of experience, it's like always have room to grow. If you see someone doing something awesome, try and learn something from it. You know, you appear to be that type of guy.
I've been so lucky. Like my dad is more than like blessed me in bringing me along to the conventions and stuff when I was young, and even still now, like we still go to all the conventions. We hop in the car and drive, or hop on the plane and fly together. You know, it's a thing we do together. And I'd be thankful till the end of my days for that, because I've really learned how to be just a good person through the D&D community. It's really helped a lot, especially learning how to be a professional, but still not take yourself too seriously, like present yourself well, but have fun with it. So I think you can do that in normal life. Like I definitely did that at Disney. I definitely was like a professional, but also I love to have fun and never take yourself too seriously because other people aren't.
That's a good attitude to have.
Yeah.
The box office says Mercer is so crazy nice, humble, and encouraging. Yes, he is.
He's such a good dude. I remember I had like a hour-long conversation with his assistant one day at Gamehole because we had the Pacesetter booth set up, and Matt was walking around just trying to look through the vendor hall, and me and my friends were talking to Matt for a couple minutes, and we were talking with his assistant. And as we're just sitting talking to him at our booth, there's a line that starts to line up behind Matt of course, people who want to get autographs. So I like kind of like not say too loudly. I like whispered to him. I was like, "Do you want to like sign some autographs?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll help out these people." So we had like a walk-in style booth, and Matt Mercer came into our booth and did an autograph signing for like an hour and a half one day, just randomly. Like, did this was his time basically to like walk around and peruse the vendor hall. And some people are like, "Oh, you trapped him in by asking him if he wanted to sign autographs." I'm like, well, I whispered it so he didn't have to say yes. But he just sat in our booth for like an hour one day just signing stuff, and I got to talk to his assistant for a while. She used to work at Disney as well, so we bonded over that. And that just shows the kind of man he is. He's a really good dude. He's had a really positive impact on D&D. Like I said, he's the same person he is on camera, like that happy-go-lucky,
That's really cool. And Ala was saying that he's brought so many young people into the hobby. But by the way, is that your kiddo?
Yeah, she like runs. She does like circles around me sometimes, so she's just hanging out. But she gets she's like one of the most vocal cats in the world. Like if she wants to be pet, she'll let you know.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, she's just standing there watching the stream right now.
All right, so I'm not going to read out the detailed description of this particular room, but just so everyone knows what I'm about to do. There is a big throne in this room that is described as being amethyst. There is something sitting on the throne, and I'm still debating whether I want to draw in or not, because I don't typically draw encounters, because then, like, initiative, and now it's not on the throne anymore type of deal, right? So an amethyst is very purple, so Princess Strega's going to be happy. I'm going to draw a purple throne up there. But each of these pillars is meant to have a blood glow coming off it. So I think as we continue to talk to Ben, I'm going to try and figure out a nice glow effect. And I'm just going to start applying it to all of these pillars, almost as the opposite of a shadow. I think that's what we're going to do. I love this room, by the way. I love the tile that we did. It looks bloody or something.
It'd be fun while you look for the glow effect and pump out that throne. I would like to hear about people's maybe other people's first experience with D&D in the chat. I always love to hear those stories. I don't know if you're down, I can like read them out or something, but
I think that's a great idea, Ben. You know what, we're gonna have you back on the channel as a regular. You're awesome. It's the Alyssa and Ben show. Alyssa's drawing maps and Ben's talking. Let's do it, man.
I like talking and you're really good at maps. I feel like we should do this.
I think we should make it happen. So everyone in chat, Ben has a great point. What was, how did you first get into role-playing? It doesn't have to be just D&D. How did you get into role-playing?
Yeah.
And while you're
stories in here.
While you're typing yours out, I'll tell you mine. Because I know there's a little bit of a delay here. For me, and Ben, I don't know if you know this about me. I was a war gamer originally.
Yeah, I do. I always see you at NTX with like the huge war game sites and stuff.
Right, exactly. And so for me, it was I'm a war gamer. I was a war gamer really just to have friends at school, and I paint miniatures, and now I painted these miniatures. Now I want to play with them. And I got sucked into wargaming, and I ended up going to a wargaming club. And having some fun, with friends there. And one day I'm playing a game. I just remember distinctly it was a World War II game, but it was the type of game where you do one turn every 2 hours. You know the type. And so I'm bored. I'm bored out of my skull. And plus, honestly, I was like, Oh, you're the girl. Here, have just a couple of blend gun carriers to tide you over. So I've not even got anything meaningful on the table. And I heard this group in the corner, and to this day I remember it. And they're just like 3 or 4 people huddled around a little table, poked out the area. They're clearly not playing a war game. And one of them leapt up and said, "You killed my wraith with a +1 dagger." And I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? Because they're having fun. Well, they were playing basic Dungeons and Dragons. And the very next day,
so awesome.
I was like, I want that. I want to have fun like they're having. And I went off and I bought the red box and the blue box, and that's what got me into it. And I went to school. No one else at school played, and it was like I had jocks coming out of the woodwork wanting to play. People that didn't want to talk to me at school, like wanting to play. And we ended up this like 12 players in a group type of thing, and then we ended up splitting into smaller groups. And I swear I was a huge catalyst just to getting Dungeons and Dragons going in Chester. Just because of that one group in the corner, you know? That's how I got into it.
That's so awesome. And then like a week later, you were the one with the +1 dagger.
I will. So another little story, and then we'll start reading out everyone in the chat. We were doing it wrong, though. Because, I kind of...
There's no wrong way.
No, dude. I misinterpreted the rules. So okay. I figured that every player had their own party of 6 to 8 characters each. So we had 6, well, actually 12 at one point. But let's just say we had 8 players around the table. 8 players with sometimes 12 characters each. We literally had a war game going on in the table. And so we couldn't calculate stats correctly for that volume of people, so we didn't bother with stats. And so it was this kind of abstract war game that we were doing. It was kind of ridiculous. And I always remember we went to an open day at a local museum where they were doing a role-playing day. And we sat down at this guy's table, and I remember his name was Jeff. And Jeff the fireman he was, and he had this great table set up, and he had 6 miniatures on the table. And me and my friend sat down and went, 6 miniatures?
Where's all the characters?
Where's the rest of them? And I remember sitting there going, so when we play, Jeff, we have 12 characters each. And he was so awesome. I could see him go, what the fuck? But then he was like, so this is how we do it here. Give it a go, see if you like it. And that actually put us on the straight and narrow. Then we started playing it properly after that. Go. Yeah.
That's really cool. I've never heard anyone do that. That's really fun. It's a unique way of playing D&D.
Right.
All right. I think the first one I saw was from Tree. In the Navy, in the barracks. Oh, very cool. You played for the first time in the Navy. Played both AD&D 1E and Pellet. I'm going to butcher that. I've actually never had to read that out loud. Palladium Fantasy, the same weekend, been hooked ever since. That's really cool because my dad would, he told me stories, kind of growing up and even now. He would run games for people when he was in the Army. So that's a cool connection there. That I occasionally do get the honor of some members of our armed forces ordering books through Pacesetter, and I have to send them to Army bases. So there's different postage. I had to send one on to a Navy ship, I believe, once. So the postage looked all different. So very cool, Tree. That's awesome. Finding my friend. Oh, this is from PAX. Who cares? Move on. No. Finding my friend's dad's old 1E and 2E books one summer when we were really bored. We weren't bored after that, and you were never bored again. And look at us now, PAX. Look at us now. From Allie Vixen. My first time was due to a babysitter not being able to get out of her game and couldn't cancel babysitting me. So she took me to the game and helped me build a fighter when you were 8 years old. That is badass.
That's really cool.
That's really cool. Holy crap.
That is a great story.
I want to hear more about that fighter. If you remember details about your fighter, I want to hear more about that. From Ala, my girlfriends and I found the 3.5e starter set while buying video games and took turns running absolutely ridiculous games none of us knew how to play, and it was a wild ride. That's almost how my friends got into it, was kind of a jointly through video games. We all loved World of Warcraft growing up, so like that transition into fantasy games was easy. Nice. From Princess, I was in therapy in 1991 for not being able to make friends. Well, now you have all of us as friends. One of the people in the group became a friend of mine and introduced me to AD&D 1E. Nice. Within the first 5 sessions, I was hooked, and I remember one of those times I was using Molotov cocktails to blow up parts of the dungeon in order to create a new portion of it. That's awesome. My friend turned to his mom and said, "He's blowing up the dungeon." Nice. That's so awesome. Yeah, it's amazing how role-playing games have brought people together. I've been at the local game store, and people have echoed that kind of same sentiment to me, that they came looking for a community, and that's so awesome. Everyone was running there. I was invited to play as a sophomore of high school. Midwest Miniature Guy, what's up, man? God, talk about awesome miniatures. Midwest Miniature Guy can paint.
And actually, talking of which, Ben, get everyone to hit him up with a follow, my friend.
Oh, plug his stuff?
Yeah, you clearly know him. Plug his stuff.
I can repost his Facebook unless he wants to do it.
Midwest, post your Facebook, post your Twitch. Yeah. Everyone in the chat, you like miniatures. I know you do. You like well-painted miniatures. Midwest Miniatures Guy. Hit him up with a follow. He on Facebook or Twitch. It does not cost you anything. That was almost English. It costs you nothing.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Midwest, he's a really good dude too. Just for clarification about my story, I am transgender. Of course, you're welcome here. But thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad you're part of our community. It's always fun to hear how.
How have we not had Ben on the channel before? Like, isn't he such an awesome human being? Can you imagine a Ben and Jack show? Can you imagine that? Because I am.
We gotta do it.
I am. The two nicest guys in the RPG industry. We gotta bring them to, if not the world, we gotta bring them together. That would be such a force for good there.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we gotta make it happen.
Jack was about 9. Dad introduced your brother and I to it, and I immediately tried to get my friends into it, but sadly no dice. It wasn't until high school found people with interest and gave it a try. Very nice. So high school, we both started in high school. That's pretty awesome. Mainly gaming in high school. That was kind of my problem too. Like, I didn't have a ton of people to play with growing up, so I played the Dungeon board game on a repeat. I have the Dungeon board game basically memorized in my head. I have the board memorized. I know. Of course, you get the scramble of where the treasures are and the monsters. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, the old school Dungeon board game. God, that game is so fun. Me and my friends still play that to that day. Now that we're like of age, we'll do like drinking games with it and stuff. So it's definitely strange. Like this childhood game I had growing up, now I'm playing drinking games with it.
It's still a good game. It's still fun. Especially, I guess, if you're drinking.
Exactly. A lot of things get more fun with that. But they've made a couple newer versions of it that I've seen in like Target and stuff. So we still play the version from the 80s. So I think if it isn't broke, don't fix it, you know? Catan and Talisman. Okay. I cannot believe I've never played Catan. To this day, I've never played it. I feel like that's a sin to be in like the RPG industry and I've never tried it. There have been a couple instances where I've really wanted to, but never tried it. I would definitely say I'm a bit more of an RPG person than a board game person. Like if me and my friends have a night where we're all free and we all want to hang out, we're rolling some dice. Like we're gonna get some stuff done in our campaign. But dang, I really want to play. Catan. Sibling is so into Catan, like crazy into it. That's the sentiment I usually get from people, that like they are like ride or dies for Catan. And Catan is the one board game that like non-gamers can get really obsessed with. Like I've met people who have probably never even heard of D&D or these other games, board games, you know, and they're obsessed with Catan. So it's crazy how that's kind of like the bridge game for people maybe. Oh, this is the fighter. Oh my God, you had exceptional strength as an 8-year-old. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, do you remember rolling for an exceptional strength too?
Yes,
you go 18. Yes. 32. Well, fuck.
Yeah, right. That's so funny because that was that happened in the very first game I was running for my friends. we were looking through the AD&D rule books, and they had never played an RPG before. And my friend rolled an 18, and he was like, "What's this exceptional strength thing?" And I was like, "You have exceptional strength, woo!" But that's like, we need to bring that back because that was really cool.
It could be cool, especially if you rolled 0-0. Look at those stats.
Yeah, those stats are insane. Exceptional strength was high dex, high con, low intelligence and wisdom, but your charisma's up there too.
That's a stout character right there.
You could have even maybe played what's the charisma requirement in 1E for paladins? I think it might be 16.
Yeah, I think it's pretty high. That was the thing.
Because you would have been a good paladin too. The fighters are awesome. Strangled a Baylor to death as she misunderstood why her axe couldn't hurt it. I asked innocently, "Is it breathing?" The GM, "Yeah, why?" As Melody, I grab his throat and start choking it. Okay, I see why you didn't play a paladin now. I was wearing armor of warmth, which of course made you immune to fire. So the Baylor's flame aura did nothing. That is awesome. Oh my god, I'm obsessed with this character now. I want to make my own Melody. I want to play Melody.
Now, if you roll an awesome character like that at any point, you just say, "Yeah, this is Melody," and no one's going to understand what you're saying, but you will.
I will, and I'll know, and I feel like Allie Vixen will have like the connection, the brain waves, and they'll know. They'll be like, "Oh, Ben said something about Melody." Talisman is coming out as a tabletop RPG very soon. Oh, I want to play the board game too. That sounds awesome. Board game wise, I've been super into Wingspan lately. It's beautiful, simple game about appreciating birds. Very nice. I didn't realize I was a bird nerd and spent a weekend bird watching. Bird watching is something that there's definitely like a very strong community around it. I would say similar to Dungeons and Dragons, but I've never done bird watching myself. I keeping an eye on the RPG. I'm sure you mean Talisman RPG. Oh, it is out now. Oh, very cool. Melody the Strangler. There you go. You get an official title for it. I always remember the story of my uncle rolling up his character. They were roll 4, keep the highest 3. DM let him roll in reverse. A 16 charisma, 18 wisdom, 18 intelligence, 18 wisdom again. Dex 18, exceptional strength. Oh my lord. Those are the best stats I think I've ever seen in my life. Of course, you could put 18s and everything, but that's no fun. That's how we roll stats too. We roll stats with you roll 4d6, drop the lowest.
And I think personally, having a little bit of a weakness is good because it adds that little bit to the character. You know, you don't have to be gimped, but just have something that's not an 18. I remember, and it was a character I never played, but our GM had these big, huge foam dice that he had us roll our characters on. And I swear I had stats like that. 18, 17, 18, 18. And we ended up like not running it. And I'm kind of glad because it was like, it was God. It was just too ridiculous, you know. Wouldn't have been fun, I don't think. I always like that one stat that holds me back.
I would wholeheartedly agree. And one of my my players and one of my best friends, his name is Connor, we went to the same high school together and met, and we bonded over D&D that way. He is the guy in our game who will roll good stats and ask me, "Hey, I think it would be cool if this character had a low charisma. Can I just modify the charisma to be lower?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. If you want an 8 charisma, sure. Go ahead and change it." Like he's like exactly like that, where he wants a flaw to be able to put to his character's background. What am I drinking? I'm drinking water.
Chameleon, I think that was your name. Thank you very much for the follow. The Senate salutes you. Thank you so much.
Uh-oh. I think my cat got her toy stuck behind some picture frames. I'll see if she can get it out. Oh, she got it out. Okay. I'll let my players decide how they want their stats to be so you can use any method they want or even write them in. I kill them no matter what, so no reason to care. There you go. That's one way to do it. That's certainly a way to do it, yeah. Yeah, we decided at a young, like when we started playing, and we've always just done it the same way.
Can you imagine a GM where you're sitting there as a player and you're like ready to go and you got your character background ready and you're kind of hoping you roll really good. It's like, so shall we start rolling stats now, Trebor? And it's like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna die anyway. It's like, oh, what?
That's when you say challenge accepted.
Oh, nice.
And then you get, you get like a wraith at level 1, no magic items, nothing. You just get drained into the ground. Yeah, we when we play old school, we'll do like, if we're playing first edition, we'll roll down, straight down the sheet, which is interesting because you have to have minimums in some stats for certain to be able to play a certain class. Like paladins have to have a certain charisma to even be a paladin, so that's always fun doing that. So for 5e, we just roll them out and then just kind of put them wherever. Though we had a player who had a really low int, base 10, can go down to 8. He was like, "Can we make it a 6 for role playing?" That's literally what my friend Connor does. Like he'll have an intent with that stat being low, that he really wants to put a character behind his character, But my 10-page backstory, your 10-page backstory, all you have to do is alter to say, "Oh, now it's my brother adventuring."
Right.
You become your brother or your sister or whatever. There you go. There's your backstory. Same thing. Iron Man D&D. That's exactly it. That's literally, yes, exactly. Just roll, put them in the stat line. That's it. I'm not a killer GM. Just as a GM, we can literally kill them however we want. So it's not like they can be overpowered. Yeah. Well, there's definitely something to say about putting a challenge before your players as well. And it's the unfortunate truth that you shouldn't really be pulling your punches, because sometimes if they mess up, you got to reap the not reap the benefits, reap the negatives of.
Yeah, but if they mess up, they mess up. And yeah. I take no pride in a TPK or even players' characters dying. But if they mess up, if it was a bad plan, they mess up.
Yep.
But conversely, if they have a good plan and it works out, I'm not going to punish them for that. I'll be the first one there applauding. And I do a lot of Call of Cthulhu. And my guys, like, while they're slowly going insane, are like, they're surviving the encounters because they're thinking smart. So I will always applaud that shit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Princess hits on a good point here, that they start up a character with the basis of the backstory and pad it up as you level up. I think that's a fantastic way to go about character creation. And that's actually, I do the same thing. I'll at least have a general idea in my head of like, okay, maybe this character was a street urchin and they're rising to success in fame and fortune because they want to return to the city they came from and help those similar urchins, maybe something like that. And then, like you said, as you go through the adventure, kind of become your character instead of becoming a backstory you never even played that is kind of arbitrary to the game. So that's a good point.
One of the most fantastic ones that I had that was contrary to that was a character that wrote a huge background. One of those 4, 5, 6, 7-page backgrounds that was, bear in mind, we're starting at first level. I used to be the champion gladiator in the capital city. I slew 500 men. And this huge graphic detail. I'm like, dude, you're level 1. You're literally right. Level 1. You have 0 XP at this point. What the hell?
And that's why I almost really like, for those who know Dungeon Crawl Classic, the funnel system, where you start with 4 common folk characters. At least this is how I've done it when I've played it. You start with 4 characters that are level 0. So they're loggers or guild artisans. And you stumble into this adventure, and whatever character survives out of those 4, that's the character you play at the table, and that's their backstory.
Oh, that's
through this
awesome!
Funnel adventure. It is so much fun. I love. Okay, Goodman Games is Joe Goodman's a great dude. Aside from having an awesome game system, but the funnel system is really cool. For those, Trebor knows what I'm talking about. The DCC funnel system is really cool. I would almost like want to see if that could be implemented into other systems of D&D, because
Yeah, I
I
really
love
like that idea. I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah, so basically these characters are like good for nothing. Like you literally have a shovel, and like you have to maybe fight off like one kobold or something like that. So you're not super strong, but you're super weak. So that does make that encounter pretty calamitous for a bunch of commoners, you know? I've yet to try the DCC Classic. Oh, Dungeon Crawl Classic is really fun. If you can find a way to try it, maybe at a convention or something, that would be. I recommend it. It's a really fun game system, and it works really well for making backstories of friends. Exactly. It you get to craft your own backstory as you're playing the game. Like what's to hate about it? You know, it's really fun. And that session where you play it is just such a fun experience, because it's generally when you play a role-playing game, you're a hero. You know, you're going out there specifically as a hero of the realm to go stop the bad guys, and in this, you're just a person from a town with maybe a pickaxe, and you have to go defeat something and overcome a real obstacle, and then you get the title of hero. So yeah, DCC is really surprisingly fun. I like it. I wish I was able to play more of it. I really only play it at conventions. But it's a fun game for sure. So soothing to watch Alyssa draw. I know. I'm like sitting there watching you shade and everything. I don't know if that's the right term. I suck at drawing. I'm just kind of watching as I'm like talking, and I'm like getting lost in my words sometimes because I'm watching you you draw.
Yeah. So this is an amethyst throne. This is about the actual scale. Thank you, Wargaming, for the cheer. Thank you so much for that one. But yeah, I'm just trying to make this look like amethyst right now, so I'm going to add those super highlights and those super lowlights, and we're going to get a purple crystal throne over here by the time I'm done. And I love doing this, by the way, with these maps. I actually don't like doing dungeon maps. I only do them for Fog God Games, because I just start lavishing so much attention on them.
So which do you prefer then? Like, what's your, if you could choose?
Like what map I'm doing?
City? Like
city.
Cities? Or?
Yeah, city. That's where I shine, you know? It's where I love, I mean, I still layer in so much love on them, but, oh my god, you know, that's the one area where as a cartographer, I should choose my words carefully at this point. I feel I am very strong in the industry, let's just say that.
I know where you were going with that, and you were correct. I think you're definitely you're obviously one of the top tier. That's.
There's a lot of dungeon mappers out there, and they're exceptionally good. There's a lot of overland mappers out there, and they're very good. I'm a good overland mapper. I like my maps, but there's a lot out there. Overland maps and dungeon maps are the most popular ones. City maps are maybe a little less popular, and there's some really good ones. But I will throw down one of my city maps against anyone on the planet. That's how I feel about that one.
I genuinely think that you helped popularize, like, making city maps a big part of a book, because you're crazy talented at it and the detail's amazing. I think definitely your work has helped bring acknowledgement to that part of not only cartography, but that level of play as well. Because it's always like, Alyssa's city map is in this book, I'm buying that book, you know? I think a lot of people think that.
It's one of those things where I've seen some city maps, and some dungeon maps are this way too, but they're dialed in, you know what I'm saying? And I think you can get away with it more in a dungeon map to dial it in, because it's just what are the dimensions of the room, where is the door in relationship to me, and what is the description of the room, and you're not even in the map anymore. But I've seen city maps that are like that, where so functionally I'm looking at a mall map, I understand where I'm at and the rough location of all of the other stores, but it's not pretty. There's no soul in this map. And I feel a city map should have soul, could have soul. because this is the streets that you're walking in. You know, if you put on your VTT headwear and get down into the streets of this city, what am I seeing? What do these buildings look like? What is the vibe I should be getting from this district? As I'm walking down the street, what am I seeing ahead of me? And I always put myself in those shoes, on the street, in those neighborhoods. And I want you, as a someone looking at one of my city maps, to just get pulled into it. You know, in a way that this map will do, sure, but deeper, just way deeper. Like, you start to see stories about people walking down the street, picking up water here, and either going to their farms or going to the marketplace. And I think that's my zone. You know, it's a little bit like Jack. Jack thinks very granular. Jack writes and thinks on a character level. I think almost on a world level, much bigger. But my true zone, my true sweet spot is that almost the god that is looking over the city. You know, that's the area where I can add so much character, so much story into the map. So yeah, the maps I prefer, that's it. It has to be.
Yeah, I think you and Finch, there's something that you said in there is something that Matt Finch told me as well. Yeah, I was just in like I said earlier, just trying to be a sponge. I remember I asked him one night, like, what's the best advice you could give to someone who wants to be a writer in the industry? And he said, literally put yourself in that dungeon and write and describe exactly what you're feeling when you're in that dungeon room, from all of the senses, you know, to what you're seeing, to what you're feeling, all of that kind of stuff. So that's really interesting you bring that up, of you actually put yourself in that district and you walk around and then you design an ordinance with that.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I do. And I see that more on the city level than I do on the regional or world level or deeper into the... You can't hear them, but they're telling me to save and do a time check. But yeah, that's the zone that I think about more. Now, before we forget, before we end this stream, Princess Strega did ask much earlier on, have you ever played in or run an evil campaign?
This is actually a really cool question you brought up, because I was going through... I just got a new computer, so I reorganized all my files, as one does, like every once in a while, and I came across an old, one of my older campaigns of all the Word documents that I created for that campaign, and in that we did an evil campaign one-shot. So yes, I have. I've fully designed an evil campaign. It was a one-shot. It was fun. We enjoyed it. I don't know how well an evil campaign would work long term, you know, just because character motivations will definitely become muddied, and morally it's kind of it's tough sometimes to be an evil person all the time, you know, especially when you're playing a role-playing game. But yeah, I was, if you Princess, I'd be wondering to hear about that.
See you, Chameleon.
I don't know if I've played one. I definitely have run them though. Have run them, sorry, correct grammar.
I have run one and I've played in one. And I think it was largely the same characters, to be honest with you. We had this evil game that must have spanned across players and GMs. And it was okay. You know, I remember a lot about the characters themselves and their motivations. And I was pitching them against the good guys. It was a little bit like Dungeon. What's that computer game, Ben? Where you're actually the master, the god of the dungeon, and you have to set the traps, and then the good party comes in trying to beat you up. It's like a tower defense.
There's a couple different games for that. Like, I think Fortress is one of them, maybe.
Fortress, maybe Dungeon Master 2 or something, Dungeon Designer or something. Yeah, it was a little bit like, it felt a little bit like that. Yeah, Dungeon Keeper, that's the one. Where, okay, so you're the bad guys, and the good guys are trying to do this. And it was okay. It was okay, but honestly, once was enough for me.
Yeah, I personally, when I get to play, I might play a little tropey character sometimes. Like, I really like playing a really good character that's good aligned, that does always tries to do the right thing, and that's gotten my character killed a couple times. Game of Thrones style, like, spoilers, whatever. The show's been out for forever. I just rewatched it, so I've made a couple Game of Thrones references tonight. Like, it's just because it's fresh in my head. But yeah, I enjoy the occasional evil game. I definitely think when we sit down at the table, we try to be, sometimes like maybe like better versions of ourselves through our characters. So, sometimes doing an evil character doesn't really fulfill that. Poor Ned Stark. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, good to a fault of like dying over your personal code of honor. If you do not allow the players to murder each other. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Trebor, thank you so much for bringing this up. I have played an evil character. I remember it now. I played an Alan Hammock's evil game at North Texas RPG Con. I remember this now. I played a lawful evil character. It was really fun. We were going through one of the layers of the 9 hells. I cannot remember for the life of me which one it was, but it was fun. And we ran into a group of good adventurers. That was fun too.
And I think it's shorter games or one-offs. I think that's okay. And I think so. Actually, that was touched upon in the chat. I think at the end of the day, we want a cohesive, enjoyable experience for all players.
Yep.
So if you have one evil character in the party, it can't be disruptive to the overall game and enjoyment of others. It's okay for someone to play evil as long as their general path is in alignment with what other people are doing. Otherwise, they're just pulling in opposite directions. And it's just going to be antagonistic and someone's going to die. And likewise, that applies for killing other players. It applies to one player turning evil in the middle of the game. I think all players have to remember we're here for everyone's enjoyment. So is what I'm doing now furthering that, or am I a detriment to that? And I have been guilty of it myself.
Yeah, I think everyone can sort of slip down that road of just getting carried away within the game. And I think that's a staple of a good dungeon master, of being able to pull yourself back every once in a while and be like, okay, this is also a game. This is also, we're doing this for enjoyment. These people worked a 50 or 60 hour work week, and they're choosing to spend their 4 hours of free time rolling dice with us. Let's make sure we, at the end of the day, have a fun time. So yeah, I evil campaigns certainly have their place. But I don't know if I'll ever do one as a full campaign. Always wanted to play an evil campaign or play an evil PC, but most of the other players I've played with would probably kill me in the first hour. Yeah, exactly point Trebor is making, where as the DM, you cannot allow that. But Pex made a good point too, that as the DM, you are playing evil characters all the time, which is fair. But I think.
Yeah, but it's one thing if the GM sits there and says, by the way, guys, we're playing an evil game.
Right.
Right? I mean, okay, we're all playing evil characters.
Like, I remember my dad told me a story growing up of... one of the games they played in. They had relatively fresh characters. I think they were like level 2 or 3 or something. And one of the players was fronting that he was a good aligned player, but was really... working with the DM to try to kill the party at one point, to be an undercover evil character in their game. And when it happened, everyone was like, what the hell is this? Like, you're a player at the game. Why are you playing an evil character when we're all playing good aligned characters? So that's a good point. Like, when you sit down at the table, you all have to agree to be, in my opinion, playing at least around the same alignment. Like, that was one of my dad's words of wisdom when I started DMing, was like, make sure... honestly, sometimes just outlaw evil alignment as a whole for players, because sometimes people are like, oh, you're not playing it the correct way. Like, nah, an evil character would probably be trying to ruin the party. So I usually just don't allow it as a whole.
And it doesn't even have to be evil. I'm just going to take that one stage further. I played a goblin once in a party, and he was like a spazball. He was like, and eating his snot more than contributing.
Yeah.
But the fact that while he was fun to play and he was comedy, he didn't contribute.
Yeah.
And so he was a detriment. In every combat, in every encounter, he was a detriment. And I realized that players, it's okay, I think, to have one person at the table that isn't always contributing, but you can't have that 100% of the time, and certainly not more than one player.
Yeah. I was talking about my friend Connor earlier. He did the same thing once. He made just a helplessly stupid half orc. That was a fighter that just had, but I remember he rolled terrible stat wise. Strength was his only good thing. And that character, like you said, was just a detriment, like causing problems all the time. And he was like, yeah, this is time to, I'm going to move on from this character. And we were all like, yeah, for the good of the game, let's just move on. Played in campaigns with evil characters, but there has to be good role-playing reasons there. Yeah, I definitely think if you're a mature enough player, you can definitely pull it off. But for a group of new players, I think my dad's advice was more towards that. Like, this is a group of new players. Let's not have someone has nefarious goals when everyone else is trying to be heroic. Because at the end of the day, Dungeons and Dragons is pretty much a heroic game. Like, you're playing a hero for the good of the realm. So I allow evil PCs as long as they don't use the party for their own survival and do not work against them. That evil has to be directed out. At that point, I would think they're almost neutral in a way. But they could be evil just with their own. I would say you would have to do like lawful in that sense, because you would stick by your own code of evil, you know? Like, I don't think chaotic evil would work with that, but that's my opinion. Not the correct opinion, it's just mine. Like,
and Alice says that being evil, you were about to read that one too, isn't just about looting.
Yeah.
Being evil isn't just about looting the party and murdering people. You're right, Ala. You're 100% right. But that's the same mistake that catches a lot of people playing Lawful Good Paladin, right? Lawful Good Paladins become dicks. And it's like, what? Where's the grayscale in here? Where's the personality of your character in here?
Yep, like same thing. Like Captain America is probably my favorite superhero, but my God, sometimes he's just a stick in the mud and annoying. Like lighten up, Steve. My God.
Stark would agree with you. God, sometimes I just want to punch you in that face. Yeah.
Well, which is ironic because I'm Team Cap as far as like the MCU goes.
Me too, man. Me too.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah. I've made a couple videos about that on TikTok, and people are like at odds still about it. It's so awesome. It's one of those things we can argue about without like actually arguing. You know, like in the real world, like you argue with politics about someone, it's generally a bad argument. I love fandoms because we can argue about arbitrary things that don't exist just for the fun of it. So awesome. Like this evil thing, like not everyone agrees, but it's a fantastic conversation, you know? Like, and it's I don't know, it's just fun to have these conversations. He is America's ass. That is facts right there. Cap is the definition of okay boomer. Yeah. I love the part in oh God, what Avengers is that? Avengers Age of Ultron, where someone says over the intercom, like right away, like they swore, and then Cap's like, language, everyone. Really funny. Just always gets a laugh out of me. I played a chaotic evil half-orc assassin that traveled with an otherwise good group. He got fat because they had the respect. What? They had the respect to get 2 jobs, but didn't always taste for the wet work required. Ah, okay. Interesting. I don't know. Fandom wars are absolutely scary. Sometimes they do get scary. Because for anyone who doesn't know, I make a lot of videos on TikTok, which is just a shorter form version of YouTube. Like the videos that you can make are 5 to 60 seconds. And I started out making a lot of videos about Harry Potter, and I would take deep dives into Harry Potter lore and have discussions on my channel about them. And sometimes it can get toxic for sure. But I love having the conversations nonetheless, because I think it's fun to, see what these writers made in their decision making, and almost sometimes you can relate it to real life and use these lessons to make yourself a better person. But yeah, the Star Wars fandom sometimes gets a little aggressive. to say the least. Especially with.
But you were saying
release
sometimes the Harry Potter fandom does.
Well, there's definitely been some problems lately. Like J.K. Rowling, the author, has said some pretty messed up stuff about the more targeted towards transgender folks, rather, but also the LGBTQ community as a whole. So, we've kind of disassociated from her as a fandom, and obviously taken control of our own fandom because it's a story that we all share. It's not just hers at this point. So, yeah, other than that, I think the Harry Potter fandom's pretty great. There are some weird things like Draco Malfoy. A lot of people think he's like a better guy than he actually is, and no, he's just a Nazi. In my opinion, he's just a Nazi. I mean, yeah, his family's Death Eaters, who are the closest we can relate to in our life is Nazis, and he was okay with that. Like, he attempted murder multiple times. Like, he's just not a great guy. And just people like the actor's cute and good looking, so people are like, oh, Tom Felton is a great Draco Malfoy. I'm like, nah, you just like him because he's cute. He's actually a big asshole in the movie. Fantastic actor, though. Malfoy didn't have a choice. That is wrong. I've made so many videos about why that is not true. I won't go on my soapbox about that, but I wish Wizarding World had an official RPG. I know, Princess, I don't know if you saw, but they are doing a game. They're doing an RPG game. It's going to be a video game, but that'll be really fun too. But an RPG would be cool. I don't know if you're into video games, but that'll be a real fun game when that comes out. Wargaming, I don't know if you were messing with me. I think Draco had a choice. He was like 17 years old participating in Nazi stuff. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. Tabletop, yeah, I know. I've seen some people online like making the Harry Potter characters as D&D characters, and that's always really fun. Like, people have done that with all like they've even make like Luke Skywalker in 5th edition D&D and stuff. It's really cool.
GL, you've literally joined the stream 20 minutes after we would normally stop. So I think we're going to be wrapping it here shortly, my friend. But I will say this, Ben, you have been so cool tonight. If you want to come back on this channel, and if you in the chat want Ben to be back in this channel, I would personally have you. I mean, you are awesome. You have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I like I said, I surround myself with so many different industries and fandoms and stuff that I worry that in situations I won't be able to have an opinion on something, so I make sure to know a lot about a lot of things because I don't like being cornered to not being able to talk about something. So whenever you want to have me on and just kind of shoot the shit with people or talk about maps or anything, I'd love to come back. Chat's awesome. You got a great community here. This is really cool.
Yeah, you get a lot of fandom. It's like, yay, Ben, huzzah, Ben. I just say, Ben, you've only been here once. I mean, Jesus Christ, just take over the channel already. I mean,
there we go. We gotta get Jack on here too with it. I think that'd be really fun.
Oh, we gotta do that. We gotta do that. I would love to have you and Jack, because both are like the two greatest, kindest, awesomest human beings. I think everyone would love to see that.
Yeah, for sure. My social media links, I will get you a couple of them if.
Yeah, link yourself up.
I originally was just going to link all the Pacesetter stuff, but I'll link my own as well. So,
well, they can always contact you for the Pacesetter, right?
Yes, absolutely. That is my Instagram. That is honestly where I do most of my posting as far as that goes. I don't use Twitter a lot, unfortunately. But I will also drop my TikTok account. I'm Xwin Live in the chat, by the way. I don't know. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, do your TikTok.
Do
your TikTok.
Yeah, if you guys want to hear opinions on my fandom, I post a lot about Disney, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Marvel, all of that kind of stuff on TikTok. So if you guys ever want to check that out, I'll drop that link as well. Have a good community going over there. We're almost to 50,000 followers, which is like crazy.
50,000?
Yeah, I never thought I would get there. But
that's serious, man.
Yeah, so there's the link. Just dropped it in. Yeah, it's really fun. It was the kind of thing where once I got home from my Disney internship, I was just like so bored with myself that I was only doing Pacesetter, and I just started making videos, and it worked. So I occasionally talk about Dungeons and Dragons on there as well too. So that's fun.
Okay, right on. Well, I gotta be honest with you. This almost 2 hours has flown by for me. I mean, I've had fun. We've worked on a couple of rooms. But I have had an amazing chat with you, Ben. You're a cool guy. Fun. You're a cool guy.
You are very awesome as well. This was a very awesome time.
So
no
everyone...
Facebook. Oh, I do have a Facebook. I usually keep it private though. That's like my one kind of like personal thing. So if you want to connect with me on the other ones, I'd love to talk on like Instagram or TikTok, anything like that. I unfortunately have to I try to keep one to just like myself, I guess, and not like the public as much.
Midwest is a different universe though. Like Facebook, like having 3,000 people on Facebook is good. Having 700 on Twitter, that ain't bad. But like when you get into TikTok and things like that, it is a different universe altogether. And yep, I mean,
yeah, I would say like 3,000 on Facebook is like 30,000 on TikTok. You know, like it's that kind of metric. The scalability of TikTok is really, really high. So, yeah.
Ben, seriously, great talking to you, man. Hopefully everyone in the chat has had a huge amount of fun with you as well. I want to thank every single one of you Twitch subscribers. I want to give a shout out to Wargaming Recon for his constant support, and he continually gives away gift subs. He's continually cheering in the chat. Wargaming Recon has a Kickstarter going on at the moment. Look up Wargaming Recon and Kickstarter. You will find it. Give the guy some love. He's just furthering the hobby of wargaming in general. And I started with wargaming, so do it. Throw $5 at the guy. Give him something. And I want to also thank all of the Twitch subscribers. Huge amount of love to every single one of you. But Ben, I want to thank you, man. You've been awesome this evening.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. This is really awesome. Like I said, it's great talking to you, obviously, but your community is amazing as well. So thank you everyone for having a great chat. This was an awesome 2 hours. This was definitely something I'll remember in my journey with the D&D industry.
Having you here got Mark Greenberg in the chat for the first time ever, so I see that as a highlight in my Twitch streaming.
I would say we were lucky enough to have Mark Greenberg. Yeah, that's he's a good dude. That guy's
he is a great dude,
crushing it as well.
All right, everyone, you have a great evening. I love you all. I'm back tomorrow. We're continuing this, and I think we're moving into these two rooms here, and they're fun rooms. So check back tomorrow at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, and we're going to continue this particular story. I'm going to see you all on the flip side.
Bye, everybody.